Thank you, Gus and Rich. And what an important topic. Active shooters are so deadly, costly to the business, and obviously just scary and tragic for customers. And I know the information that Rich is sharing and working with at the U.S. Department of Homeland Security is out there. It's free. There's training. You can get FEMA credentials for it. You should really check it out. I'm thrilled to be back right now with Greg DiTardo, the president and CEO with New Tech National.
Thanks again.
Here we are.
Yep.
And a very special guest, John Gold, Vice President, Government Relations, Supply Chain and Customs Policy with the National
That's a
Retail
tongue
Federation.
twister.
What a title. Can you shorten that to an acronym for me?
I wish I could. I know it's a mouthful.
It is.
We have to work on a shorter title.
There you go. Okay. So John was just up a little bit ago talking with Jeff Fulmer about organized retail crime. And I grabbed John and I asked him to talk about something else, because obviously in his title, supply chain and customs, he's got a lot going on with the ports and labor issues, etc. And I thought he could spend a couple of minutes and talk about what's on top of his mind. John Gold's going to talk a little bit about customs and supply chain and some of the top issues going on right now. John Gold, NRF.
Thanks, Joe. And just for clarification, I am not a Nats fan. I am a Mets fan.
Oh.
So for all you New Yorkers out there, go Mets. The only reason I go to the Nats games is to see the Mets. Other than that, I will not go to the Nats game. But besides that, I think the biggest issue right now facing retail is we're looking at the supply chain. As Joe mentioned, there is a labor contract negotiation going on at the West Coast, in fact, impacting all 29 West Coast ports, so from Washington to California. The contract expires on June 30th. It's unlikely we'll see a contract before then. We might see some disruptions at the ports as a result. Hopefully we won't. Hopefully we'll see a contract mid to late July. But, as we look back to what happened in 2002, you had a full 10-day shutdown of all the West Coast ports. Cost the economy about $1 billion a day. Took over 6 months to fully recover from. And for retailers, it happened at the worst time, as we were right at the tail end of the peak shipping season. You had impact to getting your Christmas merchandise to store on times. Hopefully we won't see that now, but this is an issue that impacts not just retailers, but anybody who's using the ports. Importers, exporters, trucking companies, manufacturers who rely on inputs to production that they're waiting for from overseas. So this could be a pretty significant issue if the union and management don't come to agreement on a contract fairly soon.
So, John, with that said, how does this impact the loss prevention partners, the business partners? What types of things do you think retailers and loss prevention in particular can do to just plan ahead, that good preparation?
Well, first and foremost, it's be prepared. I mean, I know NRF members and others have been working on this issue since late last year, putting their contingency plans into place. And for them, it's looking at either shipping early, shipping to the East Coast, or using Canada, using the Canadian ports. So with that, you have to make sure that your loss prevention folks are aware of what's coming in. If you're going to have extra inventory in your warehouse, you need to be prepared. Make sure that your merchandise doesn't walk out the door without you knowing about it. Making sure that if your product going to the East Coast and has to be trucked back to the West Coast, make sure you're working with your trucking partners to make sure they're aware and you have your security in place there. So this is something that has to be done in cooperation across the board within the retail company.
But imagine all the warehouses now on the East Coast doubling up, right? So it's something maybe the security professionals have to look at too.
Yeah.
Right.
I
Be
think
ready for it.
It sounds like the issue, especially with some fashion retailers, you're going to wind up air shipping some merchandise from overseas, which is really costly, but also now changing the way that we might account for, audit, check boxes within the supply chain and shipments. Greg, does that impact you? I mean, obviously, equipment comes in from around the globe. This is not just a retail problem. This is a business
a supply
problem
all the way around. I mean, even the integrators, most of the camera product are still overseas. So the alarm products are probably U.S. made, but there will be impact to us as well.
So, John, you tie this into some of the information that came out in the Organized Retail Crime Survey, and cargo security, cargo theft is an important part. In full disclosure, I didn't hear the whole presentation. Did you talk at all about cargo theft?
We did not, but cargo theft obviously is, from our perspective, a part of organized retail crime, and we continue to see growing numbers of cargo theft. So it's a continuing issue. It's, we've now included it as part of the ORC study we've done the past couple of years, and we see those numbers continue to grow. So it's a continuing problem. We heard about in one of the sessions we did yesterday on supply chain security about fictitious pickups and how that's now impacting retailers at the warehouses, where you have a driver who says they have an order, they'll come in and take cargo out, and then you realize later they weren't supposed to be there. So it's a growing trend, and you're seeing a lot of people paying more and more attention to it, but it's a growing issue.
And Greg, now here you are. We're technically here in Fort Lauderdale in a port. There's a verified TSA check at the gate when you come through, even in a taxi cab. It's really kind of crazy. How does that impact you? You said you brought a boat. That's no big secret. Out catching dolphins and fish and barbecuing, and you forgot Kathy and
There's
John.
going to be a
and I.
line over there looking for
There's
fish.
gonna be a long
Yeah.
line. But
Well,
hopefully not.
It's searing the tuna.
Searing the tuna. Oh, okay. So, what impact does that have on you and being in a port and the TSA checks? And
Well, the TSA, I mean, you want to talk about some legislation maybe needs to be looked at. Think about we can actually come in through a custom card, and being as a Floridian, we do it back and forth to the Bahamas all the time. The Canadians have a Nexus card up there, but one of the unique pieces is you still have to go back to immigration. So it's like you clear through the telephone, but immigrations, you still have to go to the airport or to the port and actually get back into the TSA and say, hey, I'm here, or
here.
immigration to it. So it's still not there yet, but there's a lot of changes in the works, and it's happening. It's getting a little easier.
Great. Well, so this afternoon we have a number of additional sessions coming up. A couple of them on organized retail crime. The next session is with Tom Litchford, who talk about cyber crime, and he's fairly new to the NRF, but a veteran in the cyberspace with technology, followed by a panel of retail experts that'll talk about organized retail crime from companies like Home Depot and CVS, Kroger, and others. And then we'll have some distinguished law enforcement executives from the LAPD, from Polk County Sheriff's Office, and we're going to talk about the problem from both the public and the private sector and some of the really important partnerships that we see around the country. And then we're going to cap off the day with Stan Welsh, Vice President of Loss Prevention with J.C. Penney Company. I'm going to be back as an MC. Greg, I think this is your last segment.
My last segment.
Amber might even come back at some point today. John, I want to thank you
She's
as our
back there. I
special
can hear her.
guest. I know you stayed over for this. This is John Gold, VP, GR, CSCP, Customs Supply Chain Policy.
Wow.
We're really
Wow.
excited that he's here. I'm really excited I don't have to say that again. Guys, back to
Triple
you.
lines.
Triple words.